Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 4 of Oh, the Places You'll Work. We're very excited today to have with us Abel Negussie. And Abel is an analyst at Yosemite, which is a San Francisco-based venture capital firm focused on investing in cutting-edge technologies to fight cancer and leveraging scientific innovation to make an impact for cancer patients. He graduated from Yale University in 2022 with a concentration in biotechnology. He's had a series of internships, including a radiology internship at Children's Hospital Colorado, and he worked in a lab at Yale School of Medicine focused on colon electrophysiology and 3D bioprinting for tissue repair. That's a mouthful. That's amazing. And he also worked for a short time at Maverick Venture Capital. It was a summer job. And as an analyst in their health division at Emerson Collective, which is an organization focused on large-scale social change and quite philanthropic. So welcome, Abel. We're excited to hear what you have to tell us today.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We're so excited to learn about your story and a little bit about you. There's so much wisdom that you have that we just want to share with everybody because it deserves to be. And just to start off, I wanted to ask you some rapid fire questions just to give a little bit of detail of you as a person. And I'm just going to go right head into it. What are you surprisingly good at?
Wow, okay. Surprisingly, I'm pretty good at arcade games. Really good, actually. Yeah, that was my original talent.
Surprisingly bad at?
Skateboarding.
Oh,
my younger brother's really good, so I didn't get that gene.
An insecurity of yours?
I think my hair is starting to thin. I'm getting to that age, so you probably could tell if you look top down, but yeah.
One thing on your bucket list.
A bucket list. I've always wanted to be involved with building up a biotech company. So that's a goal of mine.
And a bad habit?
I tend to oversleep on the weekends, which sucks because I'm in San Francisco. It's the most beautiful place to explore nature, and the mornings is the best time to do that. So it's one of my New Year's resolutions.
And lastly, if you could have any job on earth, what would it be?
I'm gonna take the optimistic answer and say my current job. I'm really enjoying what I do, and yeah, I'm excited to be doing it for a while. So
love that for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome to be able to say that. That in itself is just a coup, to be happy with what you're doing. You have a really interesting and unique backstory. Tell us a little bit about your growing up, where you grew up, what kind of family. Your mother came from far away, so tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Yeah, I'd love to. So I was born in Ethiopia. I have 2 brothers. We were all born in Ethiopia, and we moved here when I was young. I was 3 years old, and we came here. So my mom, my 2 brothers, and I, we moved to Denver, and yeah. But my mom, she started to work in retail and do all sorts of jobs just to support us. She really came here because of political instability in Ethiopia, plus the educational opportunities that we would have in this country. She won the diversity visa lottery, so it was sort of a random chance, sort of stroke of luck. But yeah, once we got here, really spent a lot of time with my brothers, learning and trying to outcompete them at random hobbies. But I think a big part of my upbringing was that my mom was serious about education. So most of my memories from childhood are either school-related or extracurricular learning with my brothers, which was great.
And how do you think being an immigrant, a new immigrant to the U.S. has been sort of important as part of your story, if it has been?
Yeah, totally. So one thing is that because education was a big reason for us coming to this country, I always felt like there was a sort of responsibility in being here, that I had to capture the value, the opportunities here. And my mom made that very clear, and sort of the sacrifices she made starting from scratch in the US is a lot harder for her than having continued with the life that she built. And she had a whole family and many more opportunities in Ethiopia. So that was probably the North Star for me growing up and in my education.
So other than arcade games and like out competing your brothers, did you have any passions as a child? Are you one of those kids who kind of knew you loved science or had a sense of what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Yeah, so my brothers and I, we all got into science really young, so I can't credit myself. I think my younger brother really drove that. He was obsessed with chemistry, and he was always doing experiments in his bedroom, and we tried to just sort of understand what he was doing, and he was just a little genius. My older brother, he always wanted to be a surgeon, so he was on the med school route from as long as I can remember. I sort of followed his footsteps. I did that radiology internship you described at Children's Hospital Colorado because he did it, and I got really into working in a hospital. I wanted to be a surgeon too, and then so I majored in molecular biology when I got to Yale, because that was one of the majors that all the pre-med students did. But I think my background in science from when I was young and sort of obsession with biology and chemistry got me more into the hard science than just applied sciences like medicine.
Going off of that and showing like how big of an impact your siblings and your family have been in your past, do you think that to this day, like you've had an opportunity that could be connected to this that was such an influential part of your journey and that just stuck with you and was a monumental thing that you've done in your past?
I've been back to Ethiopia a couple of times since we moved here, and those have always been formative experiences for me, because I always hear about this, but I would see concretely what the difference was in healthcare access in Ethiopia. Even like when I was sick in Ethiopia, there was not really much to do, but the country as a whole really has a lack of access to advanced medicines, even primary care for most people in the rural areas. So that was a experience. I was really into global health when I was in college because of that, and I wanted to think about ways to close that global health inequity. It got me even more interested in the biomedical sciences.
Nice. Well, that's great to hear. I think it will inspire a lot of students and things like that want to go towards your route. Just seeing your story and things like that, it's very inspirational. And I just wanted to go off of that too. Kind of like, what is something that made you have a sign to keep going? Like this was something that was for you, something that was reassuring, that is a constant thing in your mind that will tell you you're going in the right route for yourself.
For me, it's always been seeing if I'm learning and if I'm passionate about what I'm doing. I was afraid at some point in my college journey because, and maybe my internships are to blame and to thank for this, but sort of I started to question my devotion about medicine and about going into med school. And everything I had done before that point was to sort of help me be prepared to do med school. And then I started to realize, not for the reason that I don't like medicine, but because I was so passionate about cool ideas that either someone on our team or someone we work with has. My day-to-day is a lot of Zoom calls, not always Zoom, but usually Zoom calls with new companies that are developing cancer therapies, and then I also spend a good amount of time evaluating that technology, reading about competing technologies and trying to understand the science behind each of these therapies, and then eventually presenting that to others on my team to see if it would be a good opportunity to invest. What I've been doing more of, and that I am not so experienced in, is the finance side of venture capital, which is financial modeling and like trying to project what your returns will be for each investment. And I have no background in finance from college, so this has really been a great learning opportunity, and I'm learning every day. I still feel like a student.
Okay, so from the lens of being a person of color in STEM, what areas did you find different connection systems, support systems, and how did you adapt to these different environments?
Yeah, so I did this program in high school called College Track, which helps students from underrepresented backgrounds apply and get into college and be prepared for going to college. And part of College Track is that you're part of a cohort of students, all from diverse backgrounds, and many of them graduated before I did. So I had a chance to see their transition into college and then eventually into the workspace. And I got to ask them a lot of questions about how it is to be a person of color in a professional setting. So that helped a lot, just not being shocked by the reality of it, having mentors. And my older brother also was a couple of years ahead of me. So seeing his transition into college and med school was really helpful for me understanding those things.
Thank you for touching on that, because that makes me think like junior achievement also has a lot of support systems and mentorships for high school students thinking about financial literacy and the workplace and just getting a track of where they want to go in life as well. And I just think that's a great opportunity that you also found that in your workplace and in your environments.
We always like to ask people to share a story when something didn't go well in their, day-to-day job or in their career trajectory. Tell us about a time when you were challenged or something didn't go well, and then sort of how you worked your way out of that.
Yeah, I touched a bit on this, but I'll say that I had much less experience in finance than most of my peers who have a similar role, venture analyst at other firms or even at Yosemite. So I would say one thing that I tried to prepare myself for the senior year of college was to quickly do a crash course on finance, right? So I took this class at the School of Management called Renewable Energy Project Finance, and it was mostly graduate students. And the professor told me that it's a graduate level course and that you need some sort of understanding of Excel and how to do models to be successful in the class. And I wanted to I didn't want to take a one-on-one class. I wanted to jump straight to practical things that I would use on the job, because I was a senior and my major was molecular biology. So I didn't have time or credits. I didn't have the space to fit a whole comprehensive finance curriculum in my senior year. I, of course, did horrible in that class, like absolutely horrible. I learned a lot, but I didn't do well. So that was the foundation of a long struggle to understand the principles of finance, which I'm still learning, but that continued into my internships at Emerson and work there and continuing today at Yosemite. But it's a slow process, but I'm learning, and just extracurricular sort of YouTube channels, all of that was very helpful for me to fill my knowledge gaps. I also have great peers who were very patient and take their time in explaining things to me. So yeah, that's something that I'd say was probably the hardest.
Fear of math and numbers and finance is such a common issue for young people. Do you have any thought about kind of how maybe you had that instinct, but then somehow you kind of leaned into it? So how did you overcome that?
Yeah, what helps first of all is confidence. I think a lot of people label themselves as bad at math early, which is not good for their later math education, because if you've already labeled yourself as bad at math, you're not going to put in full effort and you're going to think the goal is unattainable. And if a goal is unattainable, you're not going to, well, even if you have set a goal and it's attainable, sometimes you can't achieve it. So you're definitely not going to achieve an unattainable goal. So it's something that I tried to, I used to tutor calculus when I was in college, and I would try to explain to students that it's not impossible. And math has this this reputation of just being so nebulous, and it's almost like people think you're born with a math ability, but yeah, sort of breaking down that insecurity and that imposter syndrome is really important. I thought that was important for me in trying to understand finance, and maybe I took the opposite approach that's also not helpful, which is being overly confident and trying to learn to take a couple steps beyond my abilities and taking that project finance course. But I think a lot of it has to do with confidence and preparedness. So just knowing it's an attainable goal and taking things one step at a time.
What kind of advice would you give to someone who's a college student that's just thinking about their career, and they think to themselves, I'm really interested in venture capital. I want to hear, how did you get into that? What would be your answer to those young students?
Yeah, I'm biased because I started off with the science education and sort of learned finance on the job, but I think it's really good to have a strong technical understanding of your subject area of interest before you get into venture. Sets you up really well. So whether it's climate tech or biotech or ed tech or just software, try to be on the cutting edge, watch podcasts and read books, and try to get ahead. One thing I like to do was I would ask my professors, my favorite professors who are teaching biotech courses, what an area with a lot of unanswered questions is, and then I would start to think about how it could be solved, and that requires doing a lot of research on what's been tried, and that's how you get on the cutting edge, by talking to researchers and people who are innovating.
So as our memorial question that we like to ask all of our guests as a fun little tidbit on the way out, I wanted to ask you if you could have one superpower and only one to help you in your career or day-to-day life, what would it be?
I would choose to teleport, because I hate driving and I bike everywhere, but that's really hard with all the hills in San Francisco. So I think it would save me a lot of time if I could be a teleporter.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
I think we'd all use that, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
No more Zoom. We'll just teleport ourselves there.
Exactly. More in-person FaceTime, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, Abel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.